Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loki here. Join me today as I show you how, when, and why to propagate coleus. So let's go. There are so many different kinds of coleus out there. They are annuals here where I live. They may be a perennial where you live, but nevertheless, they're a beautiful plant to have either in the shade or the sun, depending on the variety. There are some that will produce seed for you, and then there are others that do not. In case you're wondering how to collect the seed of coleus and how to start coleus from seed, I have videos showing the process. I'll put links to those videos down in the description below. Today's video is going to focus on how to propagate coleus from cuttings. This process can be done any time of the year, spring, summer, fall, or winter. Propagating coleus from cuttings allows you to make more coleus plants for free. You may want to have more coleus plants in your landscape, or you may want to overwinter your coleus plants. Here where I live in New Hampshire Zone 5B, coleus is considered an annual, so I can't keep it out in my landscape all winter long. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to show you how easy it is to propagate coleus from cuttings. And if you have coleus that you want to overwinter indoors, now is a great time to start taking cuttings of your plants. Garden centers are a great place to get coleus plants for a very cheap price this time of year. So if you don't have a certain variety of coleus and you want to have it for next year, check out a garden center, take those cuttings and start getting them rooted so you can overwinter them and then have free plants for the spring months. You may also have family members, friends, maybe there's a local park where they have some beautiful coleus plants, and especially if those are plants that don't produce seed, definitely take cuttings from those plants, get them rooted, and you'll have beautiful plants for next year. I have some gorgeous coleus plants that I started from seed behind me. Now, I don't want to take these big, huge plants and bring them indoors. They're just too big. I don't have the space for that. So I would much rather take cuttings, get the cuttings to root, and propagate the plants that way. Many times when it comes to coleus plants, at the base of the plant, it becomes very woody. You don't want to take cuttings from the woody, older parts of your plant. You want to take it from the top part where it's fresher growth. These are some beautiful coleus plants that I started from seed. And these were from seed that I collected myself. Look how huge these plants are. And there are so many different types of coleus plants out there, and the process for propagating plants from cuttings will always be the same regardless of the plant that you're taking your cuttings from. If you are going to take cuttings from a plant that has started to flower, the key is make sure you remove the flowers, because you don't want your plant to put its energy into the flowers. You want it to put its energy into creating those roots. For your cutting size, you don't want it to be terribly large. It can be anywhere from 4 to 6 inches, somewhere in that ballpark. I'm going to use hand pruners. You can use snips, you can use scissors, you can even use your fingers. You want to cut either below a leaf node, which would be this right here, or above a leaf node, which would be right here. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to cut right above a leaf node, just like this. And a leaf node is basically where we have a set of leaves, just like this. The reason we cut right above it was because I don't want this stalk to be sticking out right here. I want it to be a nice, clean cut so my plant still looks pretty. See how there's a gap right here? If I were to tell you to cut just below this set of leaves, like right here, this would be a problem because we would have a stem or a stalk. And in order to fix that problem, we could just come in right here and cut this. Again, we have plenty of season left, and for that reason, I want to make sure that I'm doing a nice cut so that I don't have a stalk sticking up above here. When it comes to rooting your coleus cuttings, you can do it two ways. You can root it directly in potting mix, or you can root them in water with the intent of then moving them into potting mix. I prefer to root my cuttings in water first because I like to see the roots being formed. Not all the cuttings will take, but typically when it comes to coleus, almost all the cuttings will take because it's such an easy plant to root. It really is a personal choice. If you want to root them directly in potting mix, you can do that as well. I have a small jar here. It's filled with water. I like to use a clear jar because I like to see the roots being formed. You want the size of the cutting to be so that it can fit inside of your container or jar that you've chosen. Wherever you have a leaf node is where the roots are going to be formed. So you want to make sure that you remove any leaves from the leaf nodes. And I'm just using my fingers to do this step. I can take these leaves and put them in my compost pile. Roots may form where we made the cut, but you should get roots forming right here at the leaf node. and the leaf node is where it feels a little bumpy. To increase our success rate, I'm going to put 2 leaf nodes in the water. And so to do that, I'm also going to remove these set of leaves right here. And what will happen with our cutting is it's going to transpire. In other words, it's going to lose some water. So to make it so that it's putting its energy more into producing leaves, we're also going to go ahead and we're going to snip off some of the leaves on the top here. So I can use my pruners to do that. And as long as we're leaving a little bit of the material of the leaves up here, we should be fine. And now I can go ahead and place our cutting in the water. And you can see both leaf nodes are beneath water level, and we still have some leaves on the top because that's important. We also want to make sure that the plant has a few leaves on the top to photosynthesize. So we're going to do the same thing with this cutting. We have a leaf node down here, so let's remove the bottom leaves. It is very important to make sure you remove all the leaves, not just part of the leaves, because if you have leaves in the water, it will make the water murky and it will cause rot. We're removing these leaves as well. I took this example because I wanted to show you we have a flower stalk here. It's very important to remove that. We don't want our cutting putting its energy into blooming. We want our cutting to put its energy into creating roots. So we can go ahead and remove that. And this part is optional. I like to do it though. I'm just removing these top leaves, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I'm also going to remove these little guys here. They are either flower buds or they're more leaves trying to be produced. So we can just remove those so the plant is just putting its energy into root development. You can create so many free plants this way. And I'm definitely recommending that you try to do it sooner than later. A lot of places will recommend trying to do this right before a first frost, but it really depends on your time. Maybe you get busy during that time of year. So if you can start doing this process now, you'll have a little bit of a head start. And with this cutting here, I'm just going to go ahead and remove this top set of leaves. I'll be placing this jar of coleus cuttings in an area where it gets indirect light. I don't want to put it in direct light because I don't want to stress out my cuttings. And it's very important to be changing the water every 1 to 2 days. You want the water to be fresh. You don't want it to get stagnant. If you don't change it often, what might happen is the water will get murky. It will end up rotting your cuttings. After about 2 weeks, you should start to see roots forming. Once you start to see a good amount of roots being formed, at that point you can take your cuttings out of the water and you can pot them up. Here's a cutting that I took 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to give you an update on how it's looking. This was a very long stem that had fallen off of a plant, and for that reason I just took it and I placed it in a jar of water. And I wanted to show you there are no leaf nodes down there on the bottom. And that's because this was just a piece that had fallen off of a coleus plant. But you can see all along the stem down there in the bottom, it's been rooting. It's almost like a tomato plant. It roots that easily. I could wait another week or two if I wanted to for more roots to form, or I could go ahead and pot this cutting up. Let's pot it up together. I have a small 3-inch pot and it's filled with potting mix. You want to make sure, again, that your potting mix is well draining and that it has some perlite in it. So we'll go ahead and just make a hole for our cutting. We can place our cutting in and then backfill around it. And then we just want to push down and give it a drink of water. This cutting that we just potted up is very used to being in water. So I want to make sure that I'm giving it plenty of water, not too much because I don't want it to rot, but I also don't want it to dry out. I'm going to be placing the cutting again in a shady area. I don't want it to be in full sun for another 1 week to 2 weeks. And then once I see that it's growing up on the top and producing more leaves, at that point, I can take it out of this pot if I want to and pot it up, or I can just keep it in this pot. But then it's ready to go and be placed in a little bit more sunnier location. If I notice that it's starting to put some energy into blooms, I'm going to remove those blossoms. I don't want my baby coleus plant to be putting energy into those blooms. I still want it to put its energy into forming more roots for me. Coleus are one of the easiest plants to propagate from cuttings. I highly recommend you give it a try. Even if you're just experimenting with it, take some cuttings, put it in some water, and keep changing the water out. After 1 or 2 weeks, start checking for roots. If you have roots, go ahead and pot up your plant. If there's a particular coleus that you especially love and it's one that you can't start from seed, why not try to overwinter it? What you would want to do is take your small plant and bring it inside right before a frost and put it in a sunny window, south-facing window, or even put it under some grow lights. Another option is you can try overwintering it in your basement. Just put it in a very sunny window. The coleus may go dormant if you're going to try to overwinter it, so don't be surprised if it starts losing some of its leaves. But the more light you give it, the happier it will be indoors. So now you have some homework. Be on the hunt for a special coleus that you want to try to take cuttings from, that you might want to try to overwinter, or that you might want to have more of out in your landscape. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it inspired you to try propagating coleus and adding more coleus out in your landscape, or for being able to overwinter coleus this coming winter. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.